What's up, guys? Welcome to Fitter Food Radio. This is episode 196, closing in on that 200. And of course, it's me, Matty Boy Whitmore, and Keris Marsden.
I was gonna say thank you.
Thank you ever so much for having
Thanks
me.
for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's been lovely.
But what's happening?
What's happening?
What we chat about?
Oh, we're gonna do part two. So if you haven't listened to
no small talk.
if you haven't listened to 194, but oh God, what are we on now?
Well, this is 196.
Okay, if you haven't listened to 195, we basically talked about the fact
What's
that
hilarious is just before this, I
Yeah.
was like, is this definitely 196 or is it 197? It was just like, it's 196. And I went to check and she was like, no, trust me, I checked.
I know, but I
And now
just
you can't even remember.
couldn't count backwards. That
Couldn't
was
minus one.
Yeah.
Couldn't take one off.
Actually, we had a good chat today on our walk, didn't we? This is
Oh, it's great. All of our chats are good, weren't
It was a very good chat this morning. But I had a singing lesson yesterday and I was saying to Matt that you have to do scales where you have to go, this is a warm-up exercise, you can all do it at home if you want, and you have to go 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm doing it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then she makes me, then she'll play another key. She'll go ding, and you've got to go higher.
Oh, wow.
And yesterday, my brain, I think it's really powerful in terms of, because you have to relax to reach the higher notes. So you're also trying to not strain your neck, not me personally, not push my chin out, do all the things she's told me won't help me reach the higher notes. Then I'm trying to count. And then my brain just went, watch you fuck this up now. Yeah. And that was it. And I could not. So she went, let's leave the numbers and do ooh, 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 ooh. But it's so interesting that I knew that because she went brilliant, like she praised me. But that got us talking this morning where I said to you, learning an instrument is amazing, learning a language. But the thing about singing is that you're kind of doing a lot of, you get this physical awareness of how much tension you create when you're trying to think. So she said to me, when you're trying to count, you're like frowning and you're like lifting your chin up because you're thinking so much. And then if you apply that to when you're at your laptop, like everyone listening, just do that. Whenever you're thinking today, stop and go like, what's my body doing? And this is when I said, like, you'd be squeezing your glutes, you can be like tensing your stomach, your shoulders are touching your ears. It's mad when we're thinking, we like build tension and you have no idea you're doing it. But it was so cool in terms of when she distracted me and then she went back to numbers and I could count again. Easily like count again, but she was like, your brain's trying to screw you over right now. Yeah, basically.
Well, it's interesting because you know that saying, you couldn't do that if you tried.
Yes.
Type thing. And you think of how many things you do, and then you think, if I actually tried to do that, you wouldn't be able to do it. And it's probably because you'd like overthink the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Like put so much effort into it, get all tense and whatever.
Well, it led us to this morning we actually then talked about sports, didn't we? We tell your story about your ball kick.
About my ball kick. Everyone's like, is that a sport?
Rugby ball kick.
So yeah, years ago, right? This is where the convo went. I was saying how I made the transition from rugby league to rugby union, which to any non-rugby league or rugby union folk, there is a difference. I won't go into it.
I wouldn't know that.
But I never kicked the ball, you know, in my position or whatever. But I moved to union and I'd been there for a few training sessions. And on this particular day, I got there early. And there was a few lads there just like taking kicks, like, you know, conversions. And everyone's clowning around and seeing how far out they can go and stuff like that. And because I was there, I was like, well, I'll get involved. But bearing in mind, like, you know, never really tried to kick a rugby ball like that or whatever. And I was just watching some of the guys do it. And I was like, well, let's give it a bash. So I just put the ball down, went running up to it, I hoofed it. And it absolutely sent it. And don't get me wrong, it didn't go between the posts, but it hit the post, but it was really high up the top. And two of the guys were like, what the hell? Like, how'd you manage that? And I was like, I just kicked it. And I mean, I used to play football, so that was my only thing. I was like, well, I've played footy, so. And they were like, bloody do that again. So I just put another one down, then hoofed it again. And this time, like, you know, I actually got in between the posts. And then next thing you know, they're like rallying people around going, hey, has anyone seen Matt kick? And I was just like, hey, you know, getting like right into it, like hoofing it. And apparently it was impressive that I was able to hit it from such a distance out and get so much height on it and this, that, and the
I
other.
mean, you could do some kind of sporting physical activity off the bat
Yeah.
really well. That's
Oh,
shocked me.
whatever. Whatever.
Every course we
But
ever did, I was like, oh yeah, Matt's just mastered that.
but what's interesting was after that, I all of a sudden it was like there was this expectation.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, if I'm going to be really good at this, I should practice it. I should like watch some videos on technique and this, that, and the other. So I then started to get to training earlier and tried like different techniques based on what I read online of like, oh, you should try and strike the ball here. You should like take a run up from this angle. And I'm doing all of these things. And I kept fluffing it. And I was like, oh God, this is embarrassing. Like last week I'm hitting these absolute hoofers, getting like mad high. And this week it's going all over the shop. And because we had our conversation, I put it down to I was trying too hard.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was I was like I was overthinking it. I was tense. I was like putting this pressure on myself. And then I was like, and even one of the guys said to me, he was like, why don't you he's like, Matt, why just kick it how you kicked it the other week? And I was like, he's right. Like, why have I changed it?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it worked. And I did. I went back to how I did it before, which to be fair was very unconventional, by the way. If you was to ever watch the likes of Johnny Wilkinson and whatnot, and they've got this lovely little run
But
up and
quite a lot of outliers in athletics and stuff who shouldn't be that great at what they do, and then they are.
yeah, it just
Like
works.
Usain Bolt shouldn't be
Yeah, on
on
paper,
paper.
it's like
Yeah,
he
yeah.
shouldn't be as fast as he is when you look at his height and all of that
Yeah,
nonsense.
yeah.
But ultimately it came down to like the more I overthought it, the more pressure I put on myself, the more technical I tried to be, the more tense I became,
Yeah, yeah.
the shitter I got.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's almost like when you just relaxed and almost was like, yeah, just took that element of pressure off.
Was do you know what's funny with singing is when you almost try to sing the song that you like the singer that you're trying to be, like could be Kate Bush, Dido, Madonna,
Celine
whoever.
Dion.
Yeah, it never sounds right. And then what she'll do is often kind of show me how to sing it in my voice. But then same thing again, you have to relax everything. So she's like, relax, let the belly stick out, like open up the chest. But the main thing is like stop lifting your chin and straining your neck, because obviously that makes your voice go.
Yeah.
So you have to like get this it's a really amazing thing for posture. But like I said to you, the counting alone is quite hard when you're trying to do all those physical things. But it also reminded me of do you remember, I'm sure I definitely told this on the podcast before, when I went to rowing club, and when I got in a boat with 4 people and the guy just stood on the shore and started doing all the rowing language, but just my brain just went, if you mess this up, like you fuck up 3 other people's row today.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was like, honestly, like I couldn't even tell left from right, and my brain was just like constantly going, look at you messing this up, you're messing it up, and I messed up the whole thing. And you were saying it was quite a bad coach, really, because he could see, he must have been able to see I was flustered. And I say he's a bad coach because just watching how my singing teacher coaches me down from this kind of like brain screwing you over situation and gives me things to do, and then I'm back on track. Like, she's amazing. The rowing coach just started yelling at me, didn't, from the bank. Again, the one where I came home crying, wasn't it? I'm never rowing again. And what was interesting is he chucked me out the boat. He was like, bring the boat in, get her out. She's ruining it for everybody. And he put me in the playboat, and he was like,
Playboat?
the playboat. And he was like, just go have a practice.
Little rubber dinghy.
He goes, just
have a splash around in there.
Go on, entertain yourself. Paddling with the duck. And he was like, just get in the playboat and practice a bit more. Watch me in the playboat. And because rowing is so logical, like it really is, like to go to turn it left, to turn it right, like play around with it. It's like being in a car, when you're reversing, and not that you play in the car, but left, if someone's going right hand down, I just, my brain goes, what the fuck? Like, and just left hand goes down. It's just weird. It just goes the opposite of what I've been told to do. But if you leave me to my devices, honestly, you'd be proud, the number of parallel parks I've rocked out here. Admittedly, there aren't many cars, but I have done so many out here, just not overthinking it, just going like nee, and I'm in. But that pressure of someone going up a bit, down a bit, round, left hand down, and that's what the rowing thing, I can't remember the language he was using now.
You're not very good when, like, if we're going to parallel park, but there's cars behind.
I don't like the pressure.
Yeah, it's like the pressure gets to you again, and I'm always there in the pressure. I'm just like, just relax, forget these guys, just calm down, almost like a driving instructor, like
yeah.
And because you're like, you know, just kind of like, you're like, oh, let me get out of their way.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's the pressure.
And one final story I'll say on that is I told this story to you when I moved schools when I think I was about 8, and I went from a primary school where there was 3 of us. It's a village primary school. There was 3 people in my year, so I knew everybody.
Yeah.
And there was 4 people in the next year. It was tiny, so each block of desks was a year. And I moved to a city primary school. There's suddenly 30 of us in a class. And the teacher said to me, "What maths book are you on?" And I said, I can't remember now, it was like 4, but I remember saying it's the one with the girl with the sparkler on the front. She's doing a Catherine wheel. And the teacher turned to the class and went, "Oh my God, we have a genius here." And everybody kind of like stared at me, 30 people. I was absolutely crap at maths for about the next 5, 10, 5. I think about 15, I finally got my groove back with maths.
Wow.
And I swear it was from that moment onwards, the pressure, it's like my brain just went to scrambled eggs in math sessions. And I look back and I'm like, it was so clear because, and the reason, by the way, I was ahead was because there was 3 of us in the year. So we got quite a lot of attention. Do you know what I mean? When it came to, wasn't that I was a genius, it's that we moved through everything faster because obviously you could. And then, yeah. But I remember thinking it wasn't until I think I was 14, 15, I finally got my groove with maths. And I was talking to you about it today and I said, because I started to reframe it as problem solving. And get a bit of a buzz when I solved the problem. My dad like gave me loads of help as well, which he wasn't great at. I have to say, he had very little patience when it came to Pythagoras theorem, but he was good at it. So he helped me. But I think at some point I switched to going, it's a problem I've got to solve, rather than going like, I don't know, just the way that I was looking at it was just like, it was like gobbledygook. Do you know what I mean? Half the time I was like, but my brain just would not engage with it at all.
I'm laughing because you ever see that video on social media when a dad's filming his son trying to solve a mathematical puzzle?
Yeah.
And it's this little boy, and he goes, if Jaden had $1, 5 cents, and 2 pennies, how much would Jaden have? And then there's a pause. Then he looks at his dad. He goes, "Jaden broke."
My favorite cards, I'm sure they're made up, are the ones that are like fake maths, and then it's like the answer that someone did. You know, the really funny ones are like a sum or maths or something. They're cards that greeting cards that you buy.
Oh, greeting cards.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right.
I show them to you, and I'm like, they were like funny answers that kids have given in exams.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
Can't think of an example of one, but they're good.
To be fair, they're quite creative, the answers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The only one I can always remember is where it was like, if there's, I think it's like there's 8 pieces of cake, and so has 50% of the cake. How many slices did they have, or what did they have? Is the question, and the answer. Someone wrote diabetes.
Diabetes, yeah.
That's the only one I ever remember, just because it went around the health circles quite a lot, didn't it? I think.
Yeah, I remember that one.
So anyway, pressure's bad.
Yeah. As I say, it's probably funnier in real life.
What?
That card.
Oh right, yeah.
Honestly, you tell it and you're like,
no. Well, I could deliver that probably better, but yeah.
Probably.
I think what I'm trying to say is it's so interesting how our brains, or my brain, but you've said the same, like the pressure, and we talked about expectation, didn't we, last week as well? Expectation of an outcome really does mess us up. As if we just enjoy the process. And with the singing, every now and then in the lesson, I have to go like, "You're not Madonna."
Yeah.
I know you're that's a surprise to you.
Oh yeah, your voice of an angel.
You're waiting for the platinum album to come out. But
yeah, I want to retire, damn it. Start living my best life out here.
But when I have to remind myself I'm here to enjoy it, and then everything relaxes, and then it's mad the sounds that have come out, and then I've got to learn when she yes. Yeah.
Oh. Reach for a high C.
Well, it's funny because this week she got me like throwing my hand forward because she's like, project your voice. And I said to you, she's really good because she's like, you don't want to speak up.
No.
And that's why I keep going. It's like, oh, it's a metaphor for life. She's like, you don't want to speak up, but there's no one in the room. Go for it. And in fact, next week it's going to be really tricky because she's actually suggested I join her group.
Oh, wow.
Which would be really interesting. I was like, yeah, but there's no solos, is there? And she's like, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh no, I think you just give us a song and we all sing it together. She's like, no, you take your song and you sing it to the group. And
what's the band's name?
Actually, there's 6 of us, so it could be Keris and the 6.
When
As in Daisy Jones. And
Why don't you call it? Why don't you just call yourself Six?
six. Oh, like five.
Like, yeah, like the band I was in.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know if I've told this story, but one of my dad jokes that I've told for many years is that I used to be in a band and they were called Six, but I decided to leave, and that's when they became Five, and then the rest is history. But as a joke once, I put it on social media on stories. I think Five were on the radio, and I was like singing along to it on stories, and then did a thing saying I actually used to be in a band called Six. They became Five. The amount of people that replied, and
Oh,
were like,
really?
"Oh my God,
Really?
really?" And I was like, "No." But it could be true, I guess.
That just reminds me of something that I sent this week to a friend, which was Steve. His name's Steve Hughes, the comedian, isn't it?
I don't know.
Steve Hughes, and he has a really good. If you just put Steve Hughes offended into YouTube,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and one of the things on it is he talks about the fact that we can't use "I'm offended" as a reason not to say things. Like the worry of offending people is not to say things. And
Yeah.
he actually says on it, like, "I'm offended by boy bands," and that's it. You have to watch the clip to know it, but it's an amazing take on someone being offended. So if you're plagued by people telling you that they're offended by things that you do, just watch this clip because it's very good. But yeah, he does say, he goes, "Boy bands offend me. Does that mean they should be banned?"
Yeah.
Just find bad fashion and failed modeling career, got into music, offensive.
Well, it's like Ricky Gervais says, isn't it? It's like, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right.
Yes. Yeah.
But what are we talking about this week,
I think we
Keris?
said at the beginning, this is part 2 of our discussion on our psilocybin ceremony.
Yeah.
And you're going to talk about yours.
Just real quick, actually, just to add to something you said a moment ago, because we have spoken about this a lot lately between us, and no doubt shared it before, but like it is really so important to remain focused on the process as much as you can. Keris, that's disgusting.
I didn't ask him to do that.
Move your foot away.
I can't.
I can't concentrate. She's like letting Hamish lick her feet.
No, do you know what? I just noticed they were covered in sand from my walk.
That's
dust.
awful.
And
I'm going to use my laptop to shield it from my vision.
he's decided to
He's a brave dog.
no, he's just
Going
treating
near
his
them.
microbiome. It's soiled all over my feet. So I thought
You've soiled all over your feet.
no, I got soil all over my feet.
You stopped now, thankfully. But yeah, like it is so important to remain focused on the process, because like you said, when you're singing, like you have absolutely no intention of becoming a singer, performing in local bars and all that. Maybe you will, I don't know. But for you right now, it's just a case of like you enjoy it.
Yeah.
You go there and you have a really good time, and you're enjoying what you're learning, and that's so important. Like you don't.
I want you to get a tambourine and we have a little sing song at night.
I'll get my handpan, won't I?
Oh yeah.
That's might be all we need. Get by, not with my food bill. I'm paying all day and night to try and get enough euros. But like same for us, like with work, with business, it's like you can only commit to the action, right? But you can't commit to the outcome, because you honestly don't know what the outcome's going to be. Like there's no guarantee. And I think it's so important to enjoy that process and place more emphasis on the action than the outcome.
Yeah, do you know what I think's really ruined a lot of creative activity for people as well is social media in a way, because we already do this compare and contrast, and now it's even easier than ever to, you might see someone having singing lessons and they're just doing really well, and actually I've made some friends out here and they all sing, and they were talking about it, saying that a few of them love every now and then getting a guitar out and singing, but it actually meant that friends that couldn't sing are like, "Oh, are you guys going to sing? Because we aren't that interested in hanging out if that's the case." Or but they were saying that they feel very self-conscious singing, because if you go into some of the bars around here, a lot of them have singers in, and then you're like, "Oh, I thought I could sing, and then I've just heard this person." So some things do happen physically, but social media definitely has increased our comparing of our like skills. And you just think, yeah, like it didn't happen like that years ago. Everyone did just participate for the sake of participation and community, and it was, I think we sang in churches, we sang at parties, karaoke was more popular, like singing groups, we sang at school.
I've never done karaoke.
Have you not?
Never ever.
I haven't heard you sing, to be fair. Actually, I've heard you rap. That's it. I've heard you rap.
Yeah.
That's a lie. Not sing. You make noises all the time.
What do you mean make noises? Do my
like
own version of like
that. You do all
beatboxing.
that, yeah, when you're like making breakfast.
Yeah, I'm a noisemaker.
And I'm like, and
Rather
then
than a singer-songwriter, I'm
yeah,
just a noisemaker.
occasionally you'll sing a song, but very rare.
But
Anyway,
it's not good.
what, that you don't sing, or when you
I
do
know,
sing?
as in what does come out. It's not like it's good.
I don't. Yeah, again, maybe you need a
Anyway,
singing lesson, and
maybe I
maybe you
do.
have got the voice
Voice
of
of an
an
angel.
angel. Yeah,
But yeah, so I just thought
throw that out
I'd
there.
throw that out there. But yeah, so just to add a little bit of context, if you will, before I talk about like my.
I think you used "so" wrong there.
I'm sorry.
You used the word "so" wrong. I watched a
You've
podcast.
lost me.
It was on a podcast, and this guy was saying that we use "so," and you went "so," just to give a bit of context. But I don't think that's how you use "so."
Well, thanks, Steve. I don't care.
It's funny. As soon as I said that, I can't remember what the right context was. But I just remember him saying that everyone uses "so" wrong.
Right.
We don't say it in the right way.
So anyway.
So anyway, so just to give a bit of context.
So yeah, to give a bit of context to, my psilocybin ceremony a couple of months or so ago, like, I think, yeah, as I shared on the last episode, the last couple of years has been challenging for me, personally, professionally. I shan't bore you with the details, but I think, something I was looking,
For once.
yeah, for a change. It'd be a very long episode.
And then what happened was, so that was that.
And that. But I was just looking for, I suppose I wasn't looking for answers, but I was maybe looking for a bit of perspective. And I kind of feel like where I'm at on my journey, I'm very open-minded, a lot more open-minded than I used to be to things. And like I said, off the back of Keris's experience with it, it inspired me. And anyway, so what here's like a really interesting thing, first of all. And I think you take from a psilocybin ceremony what you will take from it. And I think it's not always immediate. A lot of stuff was something that you'd process days, weeks, even months. There's things that in recent times I've almost gone, oh God, like that makes perfect sense. Or just, yeah, you just like something just clicks. And so because I'm, you could say like larger than the average male, um, my dosage was a bit higher. And what was really interesting, first of all, is it's a really beautiful environment. You're in this lovely room, and there's like candles, and there's music, and you got this lovely bed, and you got an eye mask, and all of that. The environment's perfect for it, right? And I started getting really restless as things were like kicking in. I couldn't stop fidgeting, which is me anyway.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. Um, and the lady running it kind of was like, are you okay? Like, you're very restless. And I said, yeah, I'm okay, but I need to go outside. I felt like all my senses were heightened. So noise, like sound, in the room in particular, because the music was playing and it was I almost felt quite claustrophobic because of it. So I was like, I need to go outside. And then I went outside and I almost felt like my skin was hypersensitive to sun. I was almost like I was being burned.
Like a vampire.
Yeah, like quick, I need shade. So I ran and sat under this tree. And weirdly, like I wouldn't close my eyes. And I was like in my head thinking, what the bloody hell have I done? Fancy doing this. Like I just need it to wear off and I'm gonna go home. Like that's what I was thinking. But I could feel that I wasn't in control of me entirely. And what I mean by that is like I could,
Something's trying to kick in.
yeah, something was trying to take a hold of me and I didn't like it. And I was trying my hardest to fight it. But again, the lady like just put her like hand on my shoulder and was like, you need to let go. Like
The
you're
lady, Sarah.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, like I was keeping her anonymous.
No, we mentioned in the previous one.
Did we?
Yeah, because we
Okay.
said we'll get her on the podcast.
A lovely lady called Sarah. She is lovely. Um, put a hand on my shoulder and just said, like, you know, you need to just let go, like relax, let go, like everything's okay, you're safe. And
She's a psychedelic facilitator as well as a pharmacist. I think we
yeah,
mentioned that in the last one.
yeah,
Just like, so she knew what you were going through.
yeah, and you do feel incredibly safe, and you know you're in good hands. And it took me a while to kind of almost go like, she's right, I do. I'm trying to fight this. I'm trying to remain in control. And again, like that's a reflection for me. It's almost like I don't like feeling out of
It's
control.
the reason you've never done recreational drugs.
No, exactly. You know, I've never liked that feeling, and it's the same reason why I've only ever got proper drunk once, because I remember, I vividly remember, I went to a party and got very drunk.
I think you mentioned this last time and said you didn't feel safe on the last podcast.
I don't think I mentioned it on the last
Like,
podcast.
or
No.
you told me, I think.
Well,
I can't remember what you told me and what we
yeah,
podcasted.
I can't. We'll go with it. We'll go with it.
Yeah, go.
And I remember on the way home, being with a group of like friends. I remember going into the kebab shop, as you do, and I was like, I think I got the smell of like doner kebab, and I was like, oh God. And I went running outside. I remember, here's the thing, I remember everything. And I remember being sick. And then next thing you know, I looked around and like all of my friends had gone. I didn't know where the hell any of them were. And I'm walking along the streets of Lewisham. Not the best place to be in the middle of the night under the influence of alcohol. And but I got to the bus stop, and I remember sitting there thinking, I'm useless right now. Like if I got jumped, like there was not a there's no way I'd be able to defend myself. I couldn't even run. I'd just be like, you know, take the clothes off my back. Like I got nothing. And I remember hating it. I was like, I hate feeling like this completely.
Isn't it interesting how you can take that away? Because everyone has that experience, but you had the like capacity to take that away at the time, even though you're drunk.
Oh yeah, like
But then
I remembered
other
every
people don't have that thought, like of safety, and yeah, it's just really interesting, I think, because I've got friends that still,
still do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
very few now. Most people have given it up by their 40s, but many of my mates did this well into their late 20s, like got dangerously drunk, as in like a few were still ending up in hospital and stuff. And I'm just like, how could you do that and then not want to like avoid it forever afterwards?
I
Like
literally
scary
was
as.
like one and done.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I never got to that level again.
Actually, you go to a party dressed in drag once. Do you remember this in Soho?
Oh yeah, I
And you
did.
got quite drunk then, and not that drunk, but I
Not
just
like
remember
that, no.
everyone saying it was hilarious because it was just Matt kind of staggering around in a wig with lipstick on, and
Look,
just a bit frightening more than
I look
anything.
like Conan the Barbarian in a dress with a big brown wig on. Well, just to clarify, it was for charity
Yeah, that was
called the
it.
Wig Party,
That was it.
and we raised money for a great cause.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was rocking a dress and Havaianas because I couldn't find
Some high
high
heels.
heels in my size. Um, so the look wasn't quite complete, but it was a fun night. And yes, I was drunk, but I think part of that was like I needed a bit of Dutch courage to walk through Soho dressed as a woman.
Right.
You know what I mean? I needed some help to get there. Um, but yeah, never ever got that like that again because I was like I just didn't like feeling like
Well,
I'm
Havaianas in a dress.
yeah. I'll do that again. You never know. You never know. But but yeah, like it's just that element of not feeling in control. But this was a bit different. Like I still felt in control of me, but I just knew, I don't know, it's weird. I kind of knew something was trying to take hold of me and I couldn't just leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and but anyway, I was like, I felt very safe. I felt very safe once like Sarah had reassured me. And I then did, I lied down, I put my eye mask down, and then core blimey, I had the most amazing experience of what I saw, what I felt. Um, and I won't go to the ins and outs of it because some of it's just a bit mad. You know, I
Yours was very
saw
like nature focused,
mine
wasn't
was
it?
all nature based. Everything was nature based. It was animals, it was trees, it was leaves, it was plants, and but all wonderful things was like, you know, like I'm just like I'm gonna sound a bit woo-woo now, but like nature's amazing. Like humans are amazing. Like, you know, and but some
True. I think the bit that you described to me, which was lovely, is you started to see the importance of everything from an ant
yeah,
to a leaf to a tree, like almost like the symbiotic nature.
yeah,
Everything's feeding everything. And if you think about the circle of life, like, and this is when what's quite interesting is I was watching a video the other day about beliefs, and it was all around kind of mental health and emotional health, and they were saying, like, you know, the beliefs that you have about yourself and your future are so powerful in terms of affecting your health. And this guy was saying that he went through a phase of trying to practice caring a bit more because he was kind of struggling with some health issues, and he'd gone a bit like almost disassociated and didn't care. So he decided to never, like, not kill a fly or a spider or ant in his apartment, to rescue them and put them outside. And it reminded me, this is what you came to you, wasn't it? That, and he got really, like, after a while, he was like, oh, this is a bit of a hassle, like rescuing a spider, putting it out, an ant, putting it out. Like, what's the point? I'm just doing this, and it's not really kind of resonating with me. And then his mate came around for a coffee, and there was a daddy long legs on the window, and his mate went to splat it.
Yeah.
And he said it was like slow motion. He like leaped out of his chair. I was like, no.
Yeah.
And he's like, so I did care, because my instant reaction was, that's a life that serves another life. Like, and he said, without even realizing it, it had sunk in, because I was repeating the habits to reinforce the belief. And this is where, you know, a lot of the things we've done since our ceremony have been things like meditation, mindfulness, listening to books and podcasts and everything kind of on emotions, and redirecting thought patterns, reprogramming the brain a bit. Because when life hits you, and maybe hits you hard from a business perspective or personal life or whatever, self-confidence, self-esteem, it's really, you'll get stuck in a pattern and you repeat it. And I think for you, you came away and just realized this vitality of everything around you. And it's funny because you do always rescue everything.
I was going to say, like, that's something I've always done anyway.
They've got names, they've got like,
well, it's weird because, like, Keris doesn't really like spiders,
but I don't kill them if possible.
No, you don't kill them, but you always want me to get them out.
Last year on my own, when I was here in Portugal, I did a couple of big, like, I didn't put the pint pot over the giant spider, which is hard if you're scared of them. They were giant.
Yeah.
Honestly.
But
not like tarantulas, but
whereas I'm like, no, you need to leave them in the house. They've come into the house for a reason, like, because it's cold out, or, you know, they said they're going to eat the other little bugs in here. They're going to do us a favor type thing. But like, I did have this moment where I felt like I was at one with ants in particular, because I was laying under a tree on my little bed thing, because I couldn't hack being inside. And it's funny when you said about getting bitten by an ant. Did you say that?
It was on the one that we scrapped. I'll
tell
the story in a minute.
Oh, yeah. Because I was getting bitten by these ants, right? But I remember thinking, why are these ants biting me? You know, I'm not causing them any harm. And I was like, well, actually, you're lying on the floor where they probably were. And now all of a sudden, this lump is kind of on their territory type thing. And they were biting me. And I was like, I remember saying to myself, that's fine. If they want to bite me, they can bite me. You know, they don't know that, you know, I don't mean them any harm, you know, as far as they're concerned. Like, you know, I'm kind of like this intruder, or whatever it might be. And this was actually a big part of my experience, because at one point, one of my visions, it was like this film going on, when all the while the eye mask was down. It was like a film, and I was in it, and it was so detailed for me, which you didn't have, did you? Like, I had like everything I saw was so detailed. And at one point I was a giant, big, massive giant, right? And I'm like walking along.
Which is kind of like really similar to life. That's what I'm saying to you.
Well, it has, let me get to a certain point, and then there's definitely a connection.
I was going to say about the comment that was made when we were out the other day. Someone paid you a compliment, said you're a gorgeous giant. A man came over,
a straight man as well. He was there with his girlfriend.
Said, don't take this the wrong way, but you are a gorgeous giant. And it made us laugh, because you became a giant in your in your ceremony.
I thought you were going to say something else, by the way. That's why I said, like, oh, let me get to a point, because I thought you were going to link it to something else. But in this vision, I was walking along, and weirdly, some people knew me that were down on the ground, the little people, and they were like waving at me, like, hey, Matt, like, type thing. And then some people like running for their lives, and I'm going like, no, it's fine. I'm not a danger. And I remember thinking, why are they running from me? You know, I'm a good guy. I'm not a bad person. I'm not trying to cause anyone harm. But then in the vision, I was like, yeah, but they don't know that. You're this big, massive 200-foot giant. like they don't know who you are. Like you can't blame them for running for their lives
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to safety. And I think what I took away from that is like, I think sometimes like we worry what other people think of us and we can't quite understand why they may feel a certain way. But actually, they have every right to feel that way because they don't know you,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, and it's like, you know,
You are, I was gonna say, when we spoke about it, I said, well, I judged you when I first saw you that, oh, you know, he'll rate himself, he'll be full of himself. And I think I'm really ashamed that I judged you in that way, because the minute I got to know you, that was not the case. And I was like, oh, he's a beautiful human being.
oh,
But I think sometimes for you, I've noticed life is harder because you do get judged straight away, and you are bigger than the average human being. And you are like, sometimes I guess some people would feel intimidated, some people would feel jealous, some people would feel they needed to peacock you. And interestingly, I was chatting with my hairdresser here the other day, you know, talking about you. And as I was talking about you, some things came to light, because we were talking about partners and friends and jealousy and things like that. And I was like, oh no, my other half, I'm more likely to find him sat, you know, kind of like drinking prosecco with 10 women than I am like see him out with a load of blokes. And the reason being,
Keris.
no, you
I
don't
wouldn't
drink.
be drinking prosecco.
I know, sorry, that was well, they would
They
be.
may be.
Yeah, you would be on whiskey. But the reason being, I've seen how some men do sometimes, like peacock. And funny enough, peacocks came in my second survey.
Oh, yeah.
Loads of peacock feathers. But they do peacock you because I think they're a bit like, this guy must rate himself. He wouldn't be my cup of tea. He probably spends all day in the gym. He probably does steroids. Like the judgments just come thick and fast. And I've seen it, you've seen it. And I think it's harder sometimes for people to believe or accept that you're just a really nice bloke and you've got everyone's best interest at heart, and you're not interested in anything that's kind of, you know, I guess I don't want to say that, you know, kind of some of the things that go on in the fitness industry, you know, there's some of the things that just go on where people, it's a bit dodgy, let's be honest. You're not into any of that kind of stuff. You're not a threat to people. And I think that maybe is kind of what the ceremony, you know, taught you. And it is why often you end up hanging around with women a lot more, because women do just kind of give you maybe a bit more of a chance sometimes than blokes do. And you always say, like, I just love the gossip and the chat anyway, you know, I like hanging out, I like hanging out with whoever I like hanging out with. It's about the people, not the, you know, the gender or anything. But it is interesting that that is sometimes the reaction. But I also think for you, when you have got angry, the main, you know what I'm going to say about the main situation where I see you get angry, where I've said you need to pack that in. What do you think it is?
Driving.
Oh my God, your road rage. And
Or
it's
if I see someone drop litter.
yeah, both actually. Although today, I think because all the tourists have left, it's the first week back to school, all the tourists have left. And it's just stood out to me. The shit that's been left behind is incredible. All of the cliff tops, because I've been walking everywhere, are just covered in litter. But the worst thing is, everyone's gone to the loo all over the cliff tops on there's a coastal path here, and just left all their toilet paper. And it's just, we are disgusting. I mean, anyone can do a number 2 anywhere they want, or a number 1.
Well,
But
not
don't
anywhere they want.
yeah, but don't leave the paper. Like, why would you leave the paper? If you're caught short, fine. Just that will go back into the earth. That's all fine and dandy. Do you know what I mean? But don't leave. It's really
Shitty
bad. I
tissues.
didn't realize how bad. And I've said to you, we are starting a litter picking walk. Like, just message.
I'm picking up them shitty tissues.
And that's the only thing. I was like, I would struggle.
Unless I get one of those like claw
You need a
things, you know
claw
what I mean?
thing,
I got to
definitely.
touch it.
But yeah, you angry can be very intimidating. And the main time, it is usually when it's justified. But I've often said to you, you don't know what you look like when you get angry. Like, it's, and the main thing has been in the car, when you get out the car and someone's driving stupidly, and then you get out the car and you're like, I don't know, that can end badly.
You make me sound like an animal.
No, it's always justified. There's always they've always created danger, which has made you angry, or necessary danger. So that's what I'm saying. It's justified, but the way you react, and you don't ever do anything, you've never done anything violent, but the way that you shout or get out the car and you're like, you an idiot, like, is bad for you in terms of, it's just filling your body with, like, you know, negative energy, but it's also dangerous in terms of it's creating a threatening situation.
And you're absolutely right, and it's something that I've definitely been working on, and I'd say I'm definitely better.
Yeah, you are.
I'm a lot like less reactive now.
Maybe
because
you put like your hand tunes on when you're driving or something.
No, but you know what? I think genuinely, I think
Enya.
I've been on a journey. I have, and like I'm just I love driving, genuinely love to drive, and I love long road trips. I'm a bit weird like that.
Yeah, you're a very safe driver as well.
And, I just feel like, we've spoken about this before, like anger, don't get me wrong, like everyone is perfectly entitled to feel anger and shouldn't try not to feel angry, because it's a genuine emotion that we're all allowed to feel. But when you hold on to anger, it just does nothing for you. And it's like we said, like, like when you get angry, like it's only affecting you, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm a lot better now at just not really reacting. I might say something to myself like, dick, or whatever, like if they've just done something a bit stupid. But I'm very quick now to be like, everyone's safe, nothing happened, that was a dick move by them, but let's move on,
Yeah.
type thing.
Sing Tears for Fears, shout. That's a good way to get it out.
Is it?
Shout, shout.
Let it all out.
There you go.
Tune.
These are the things I could do without. I'm not. Shamon. Hamish just popped his head up.
Michael Jackson mashup remix.
Yeah.
Come on.
Talking to you.
But what was interesting, as a giant, I then died, right? And I remember dying and falling in the sea. And then I had this really clear vision where I knew I was dying and I was just sinking to the bottom of the ocean. And I was looking up, and when you see like the
light,
and the light was just gradually fading, and it was getting darker and colder around me. And I remember having this feeling of like, isn't this crazy that even as this big, huge giant in the ocean, I'm nothing. I'm tiny, in the grand scheme of things. And I think the message that I got from that was that I was going through something at the time, and I came out of it and was like, it just made me kind of gain perspective on this thing that was going on. That
as in a life event was going on.
A life event, yeah. And it had consumed me a lot. And I had this thing where I was like, in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. Like when you actually look at it all, if you step back and look at it all, it's nothing. And it's only this big because I've allowed it to get this big.
Oh,
you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I guess that you kind of did, like, from the moment you didn't do from the moment you're born, but I guess you were in the middle of your, like, to the end of your life. Like, where is this event?
yeah.
I mean, it's
and don't get me wrong, like, now you can kind of say like I've learned a lot from the event, like about myself, about other people. So that, I suppose in hindsight, I still probably would have rather not gone through it. But maybe
the event, not the ceremony.
The event, the event.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I am better now at kind of going, but life's going to have its hardships. It's going to have its struggles. It's going to have its real bloody kicks in the face. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but you also said, it came to you that you could always go back to your tree.
Could always go back to my tree. Like, and that was another thing, like, because I was under this tree.
Yeah.
And like, I remember just thinking, another point, thinking, God, but when life gets tough, like, as long as you've got a tree to sit under, you'll be fine.
Grounding.
And I think the take homes there is like, first of all, like, guys, think of this, like, we've all had shit happen to us, right? All of us. And you know what? More shit's coming. And that's the reality. But if you just take a moment to just breathe and step back and go, like, right,
just being noisy, sorry.
How big am I going to make this? Don't be silly about it. Don't almost try and brush it off. Don't be like, oh, it's nothing, blah, blah, blah. Be real about it. But it's like, but I need to contain this, or it can get real out of control.
Yeah.
It can get really out of hand, and I can turn this thing that's already pretty big into a giant. But oftentimes, like, if you gain a little bit of perspective, then, like, it just helps.
Yeah.
It just helps. And for me, I had that perspective. I was like, this isn't as big as you're making it out to be. I wasn't dismissing it because it was big, and but it was almost like I was like, I had the power then to go, well, actually, I'm going to decide how big this is, and how much energy, and or how much am I going to feed it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For it to keep growing, type thing.
It just reminds me of just to take it back to the kind of nature thing. I listened to it's a really good episode on Greg Potter's podcast, and he interviews Dan Pardy who does Human OS, which is like a kind of lifestyle program. But they were talking about when stressful events happen, that we need stress is a beneficial experience, and we need a certain amount of resilience and robustness. And I would get this wrong because they gave the analogy of a tree and said, I think it was like resilience is how much it can withstand like a storm, and robustness is how much can it bend in the wind without breaking, and they're kind of two very different. Oh dear, that Hamish.
It wasn't
like cabbage. And they're different. So like I'm really messing this up. I'm just going to say go and listen to the podcast because it is really good. But in yoga today, it was really interesting because the teacher who's really into actually, it was a vinyasa class, but she really likes to freestyle it out because it's, and do a lot more kind of fluid movement and breath work and stuff. And she did tree pose, but then she was like, let's bend the tree. So we were all in tree pose and we had to lean to the right and then to the left. And it just reminded me of that, where they said like robustness is how much can you bend in the wind, but then come back to it. And I think like you did an amazing job. What I noticed as you were going through that process is we often affect each other quite a lot. We run business together, but if you're going through a personal stress or anything like that, or struggling in any way with illness or self-esteem, anything, it really affects me. But what we're quite good at doing is like I jump into like giving you perspective and you do exactly the same thing for me. So like this Sunday I had a bit of a wobble and you just sat me down and went like, come on, like, and talked me through, like, what was nice is you talked me through what was true, because I was telling myself a completely inaccurate story that morning that I just invented through fear. And you sat me down and you were like, here's the facts. Like, and there is some great acronyms with fear, isn't there, where they say it's like it's just the wrong assessment of the reality. I can't remember it now, but you sat me down and gave me that perspective. And I think what I've noticed from you since having the ceremony is you have just bounced back quicker. Like I haven't needed to, kind of give you that perspective. You're getting it yourself. And we always need input from others. It's not to say, oh, go and do this psilocybin ceremony and you're going to have all the answers. It's not like that, is it? But no. You've definitely created like a greater kind of like, I guess, both resilience and robustness within you, where you've just been like, I can't let this beat me, and I can't let this determine me, and I can't let this define me, I guess is a better way. And I think that I was actually going to ask you, when you just mentioned you were dying, but you didn't even, and you hadn't, since you've told me the story, you never mentioned any feeling about dying. Whereas most people, because a lot of people have mentioned in their ceremony, they've sometimes experienced their own death. Not necessarily a true death, because often it's a spiritual, some people say it's a spiritual death of the old person because the new person's going to
I've got something to say on this.
Go on.
Because I died again.
Oh, you haven't even told me that, I don't think.
But this time I was under the tree and I was an old man.
Oh.
And I remember looking at I was holding my arm up and I was looking at my arm and it was all frail and skinny and I was still swole. Still bulging veins, vascular as hell. No, I was really skin and bone, all wrinkly. I was like holding my hand up and like almost like looking at it, like looking at the sun through my fingers. But at this part, I knew I was dying. But I remember thinking, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with dying. And I remember thinking, what a place to die, in nature, because I was under my tree. Under the tree. And yeah, so that was, but again, like it just kept coming back to nature for me. And again, like I said to you, it was like, oh, as long as I've got a tree, I'm all right. And I think the message there is like, how often does nature put you right? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't necessarily solve an acute problem, but it can help you to solve a problem better. Like, go for a 10-minute walk outside, you come back a different person. Go and sit and feel the sun on your skin. Not always that easy in the UK, but you feel so much better.
Autumn I've always loved autumn. It was only last year when it rained for the entire autumn.
No, for sure.
Normally I absolutely love this time of year in the UK. And to be fair, with the heat here, people have said this, you start to miss the seasons changing. It is going to change here soon.
Sure.
But yeah, and even if you're in a city, there are just, we say this, don't we? There's spaces. We found loads in London, like you can go to.
But people don't do it. And we were guilty of it for years and years and years, because whenever shit's going wrong, or you feel like it's going wrong, or you're not happy with something, like it's almost like your instinct is just do more, work harder, and it will pass,
But also, a
like,
lot of the things that you end up doing, it's like, I love it. I think it was Kelly Starrett said it puts you in a human zoo, because it's house to gym to work to
yeah.
into car back, and then if you're keeping busy at the weekends, it's off to shopping center, cinema. It's human zoo. You're never out of a caged environment, and never thinking for yourself, never getting perspective, and
you're seeking distraction all the time,
yeah,
rather than actually sitting with whatever's going on
and figuring it out.
And I get it, because sometimes you don't, there's a part of you that doesn't want to sit with it, because it's uncomfortable, it's painful. But the sooner you do it, like, I feel like the sooner you can get to work on it in a much more productive way. Like, I said to Keris the other day, I was like, see that log over there? Like, where we are, you come out of Keris's, like, mum and dad's place, and then there's a little cut through path. And I was like, see that log on the floor there? I was like, that's my log. Like, sometimes just I'll go and sit there for 5-10 minutes, and I might be just in silence. I sometimes take my book and I have a little read, and it's magical. Like, it really is. I'm just there, and I'm in amongst the trees. Hamish is just pottering around. I can see the little beams of sunshine coming through the trees. And just for a moment, it's like I'm I'm on like a little mini holiday that's given me that little bit of like space in my head to just think a little bit more constructively, rather than just being in it all the time and going into like solution mode. What do I need to do to fix this or get out of this or whatever it may be? And I'm talking 5-10 minutes, and yet I work with so many people that don't feel like they can commit that to themselves. But it's like, no, you have to. I'd rather you cut your workout short to do that.
I think this comes back to, like, I remember, I can't remember who it was that said this. I think it's Joe Dispenza, that he estimates we have 70,000 thoughts a day. And I reckon some people are more than that, because we're just constantly stimulated. But then, like you said, we're going into environments that create excessive stimulation. We've got our phones, we can have 20 windows open, we can have podcasts on and music. We're like wiring up our brains. And I do have a little thought about kind of things like OCD and ADHD. And it's like, it is, I think everybody would probably feel elements of that to some degree. It's definitely a spectrum, but who wouldn't have elements of that when there is so much stuff in the world demanding our attention, and very cleverly. So a lot of media are using, fear tactics to really, like, want our attention, clickbait, that kind of stuff. So who wouldn't have like multiple kind of system thoughts going on at the same time? And a lot of them, and then we've also got things like sugar, alcohol, medications, all sorts of stuff to really caffeine to like really jack up our systems, or I guess kind of like mask the alcohol, be more like mask the effect of them, so that we don't stop doing those, because at some point it'll get so painful, like it did for me for sure. And my psilocybin ceremony definitely consolidated where I was heading after I'd had my kind of, I don't know what would be I think it was my third bout of COVID. And that's when I started meditating. And I was really lucky that I'd done that before my second psilocybin ceremony, because what I saw was just this like mega scrambled mess of conflicting thoughts and like distracted thoughts, and it was just going all over the shop. And then when the actual mushroom kicked in, like I said, it just came this wave of serotonin, this peace, this sense of like contentment, and like this alleviation of pain. I was like, but most of the pain was my own freaking thoughts. Like, it was me creating the pain and then needing the alleviation from the pain. So it really, for me, reinforced we have to go and find peace in our day on a more regular basis. We have to, like you've said, it's interesting you said about being on a tree, and because in ancient practices everyone talks about grounding, like just rooting yourself back down. Think about the roots of a tree, but also the mycelium network. It's all going back down into the ground, and kind of thinking, right, what are my core values? What's happiness to me? What do I truly need? I don't need a new iPhone. I don't need that car. I don't need a new top from H&M. I don't need any of that stuff. But
I'm gonna buy it anyway.
interesting. I can't remember, I mentioned the first bit of my ceremony, I thought I needed more psilocybin. I thought it wasn't working. And I basically, this is my second one, and I almost said to her, I need more. And then the whole dialogue started of like, you always think you need more. And then basically I started having two conversations with myself. One was going, you always think you need more. You're such a greedy cow. Do you know what I mean? And then it was like, but I do need more because it's not working. Nothing works for me. It's not kicking in. I don't feel the same as last time. It's not the same as last time. And it was just hell. I just had these two voices.
But again, like you went in there this time with an expectation.
Yeah.
Like you were too focused on an outcome rather than going like, let it just be.
Yeah. And I can't remember what I said on the last one, but I was going to say a takeaway for me, and it's just led to more and more improvements, I think, in my mental health, including the kind of ability to focus, the brain fog, we both said we completely pass an exam for definitely got ADHD, but look at the amount of stuff that we do to ourselves. And what really we've noticed helps is things like having designated environments to work, setting times, for goals, and being, trying to organize ourselves and pull in. I mean, I think we've given her ADHD, to be honest, because we can be like all over the shop in terms of we're doing like 20 things at once, and it's really hard, as a business to come back in and focus. But I think the more I'm doing things like meditation, breath work, walking without music for some time now, like and you've said that you're doing runs without any podcasts and just trying to like listen to your breath. And I've done a few more kind of mindful walks where I'm like, what can I smell? What can I see? What's Hamish doing? What's my stomach doing? Okay, I'm tensing. Why am I tensing? Let it go. Okay. And just being present, which is the kind of Eckhart Tolle message that, again, I've tried for years and I don't know why I couldn't bed it in. I don't know if it's a combination of, getting really, really sick and just sick of me at the same time as being really sick. And then the psilocybin kind of helping me understand that you have a lot of the answers within, but you'll only ever find them if you drown out the noise, go somewhere very natural in terms of the space. And it could be your yoga studio in your office, it could just be a nice, beautiful indoor space. It doesn't have to be out in nature, but somewhere with some plants, or maybe put some plants on your desk, and that could feel a bit more inspiring, I think. But a thing that a friend of mine who meditates a lot always says is like, you've got to wait for answers to come to you. And it's really hard if you're really upregulated and a busy brain person. You're constantly trying to find answers, not just for you, for everyone else. Like, I'll spend all my time thinking about family, friends, a client, you, Hamish, what next? How do I help them? How do I micromanage their health? Do you know what I mean? And it's built over the years into this giant, like, whizzing brain. And I'm actually trying to slowly calm it back down and say, you can help as many people as you want, as long as it's done in a way that you help yourself. And remember, you're only helping someone to find the answers. You can't do it for them. That's another thing, isn't it? That we've both been talking about, that, like stepping back and saying, if we found the answers within ourselves, then you all have the answers within yourselves. But if you don't have, and I don't think anyone needs to necessarily do psychedelics. It would, it's helped me, but I'm in a very different situation. But you definitely do need, in this society with this much stimulation, some quiet time.
Absolutely. Like,
whatever that looks like, whether you meditate, switch everything off, or just sit and be.
No, for sure. Like, and I think, like we said before, it's like there was a time when I wouldn't have even considered doing something like this, and everyone's got their own journey, everyone's got their own path, and it's not right or wrong. But I suppose like we both just hope that us kind of sharing our experience and the perspective that we gained from it, like I hope that you can gain something from that as well. And there's that nice little reminder in there of when life is getting a bit shitty and it is getting a bit overwhelming and you don't quite know where to turn, and maybe you just feel like, you've lost a little bit of hope. Like, just step back sometimes and remind yourself of, what you've got in your life, who you've got in your life, where you are. And in fact, actually, I was listening to an audio book on my run that one of my clients recommended, actually, and I shared it with you, didn't I? And it was like these two friends in this particular part, and one of them was like very enthusiastic, very optimistic, and they were like launching a business together. And the other one was like, yeah, but like it could also go horribly wrong. It could fail. Like, why are you so optimistic when, you know, it could go either way? And his response was like, yeah, but isn't that the beauty of it? That at this very moment, anything is possible. And it really hit me because I thought it truly is. But we focus on the negatives.
Yeah.
We focus on all the stuff that could go wrong rather than entertaining the things that could go right. Like, and literally anything could happen.
Yeah.
Anything could happen. And whatever you think could go wrong, guess what? The opposite could happen as well.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought, what a lovely way to look at it. Like, you know, at this moment, anything could happen. That next step could be anything. It could go this way, it could be that way, but that in itself is amazing.
But
Yeah.
that's why I do think you need some kind of grounding practice, because I think for years I was always, I'm going to go 2 feet in. We took lots of risks in terms of like, let's write a book, let's do this, that's it. We're so passionate. You know, not that we didn't anticipate failure, but we had some successes, and that just made us busier and busier and busier. And there weren't failures necessarily, but it was getting harder and harder and harder to even be seen and heard with social media growing. So we worked harder and harder and harder, and we couldn't see that it was wrecking our health, but also that we were, I like, for about 15 years, I've been to one university reunion. My uni mates meet 3 times a year. I've been to one, you know, do you know what I mean? And I remember thinking, like, when did you decide to give up any sense of like social connection, happy? Don't get me wrong, we've been out and stuff, but even when we were out, it would take me a good 2 to 3 glasses of wine to come back down to almost like socializing.
Yeah.
I'm like literally still in my head, still like, and when you are helping a lot of people and doing stuff in the health industry, it's also really rewarding and very positive. So you've also got that slightly egoic draw, you know, like, I should be doing this. People need me. Do you know what I mean? And it's so daft, but I can't even imagine how junior doctors and consultants and doctors, GPs, you know, you seeing people back to back to back, and no wonder they must need so much to bring them back down, you know, because it's really hard, because you're so ramped up at the end of a working day, and you're so, if you love what you do, you're kind of elevated emotionally, but some of the wrong emotions is, you know, a lot of dopamine. It's a lot of stuff that is probably in excess going to do us harm. And we have to come back down. And then suddenly you find like, it's really hard to talk to your nan about, you know, she doesn't like the biscuits she's eating. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now I've started to do like all sorts of things, you know, like I just want to be with people and I want to hear what they've got to say. And everything that everyone wants to tell me is important to them. I've still got limits. I still need quiet time and bookend it with like peace and quiet. But I've started to enjoy just like, you know, the conversations that I used to enjoy before everything just got so busy and, you know, kind of jacked up, I think, on all the, with all the things that were going on. But yeah, I think it's slowing down. I mean, everyone's kind of getting there now, aren't they? I think all of us are slightly burnt out most of the time, and we're all like, yeah, slowing down. And by the way, like we're still training, you know, I've kind of got back to it now.
But also as well, like we're still you know, we bloody hell, we haven't got it nailed by any means.
No.
Like, and we do still have moments where we do get overwhelmed and we do get too caught up in it. And sometimes it takes one of us to kind of go, come on, like we're going for a walk, or you know, like let's just have a lie in today and do this instead. Or we come to that conclusion ourselves, like because we're so much more aware of what's happening.
And actually, just to add one little story to this, I think I said to you today, like I've definitely gone through, I did this last year when I was here, when I was looking at kind of nervous system regulation. Like one of the kind of key pieces of information is to, if you have got kind of burnt out and health issues off the back of that, or long COVID or anything, like what makes your body feel good, and do more of that. And so you start doing it and you start to rediscover things that you loved. It could be reading, it could be some kind of craft, it could be swimming, it could be hiking, having a lie in. If you've been like someone who's been getting up at 5 o'clock and doing HIIT, you know, for years, like you almost do the opposite. However, then you can start to read more about this and then start to fill your routine. And I got to a point with you, didn't I, where I was like, it's really nice stuff, but I'm almost like dashing from one thing to another, going from like physio to I need to be at the beach by this time, I should have a cold water dip, you know. And it's, we talked about this before, like, is your health habits kind of making you less healthy? Because you're developing a sense of like, if I don't do these things, then I'm not healthy. And it reminded me of when I basically like saved up a load of pocket money and earned £10 and went to I've told you this story, haven't
Just
I?
recently.
Yes. I washed all the cars and mowed the lawns for, well, I was about 9 years old and basically earned my first tenner. And then I said to Dad, can I go to the sweet shop? He was like, of course you can, but don't spend it all at once. And of course, what did I do? I went and spent it all at once, £10 on chocolate and sweets, and came home, ate it all, and felt really sick. And again, I did that a few times as a kid, and then finally learnt my lesson. I was like, buy things like hard-boiled sweets and then like have a few a day, like make the reward last, if that makes sense, or choose something that is going to give you a little bit more happiness for a bit longer. And so I've said this to a client recently who was saying, like, I'm doing all these great things now, but I'm almost burning myself out because I still got to go to work and I've still got, still got to look after the kids and things. And I just said, think about now that you've discovered the key to happiness, like, but just go and find your boiled sweet that's going to last a bit longer. So if it is, the kind of afternoon nap or the singing, or mix it up, like, just have what offers you the biggest benefit. And I asked myself that question. And it's like walking and hiking is definitely the one for me. But also, I would say just stopping my brain chattering, coming into the moment and going, relax.
Yeah.
And honestly, I could do that anywhere. I can do that in the car. I can do that at work. I can do that on a call. I can do it when someone's annoying me. And it has a profound, lasting effect. So that's like one of my hard-boiled sweets. And the second is walking. So everything else is a bonus. If I can get a yoga session in, meditation I've done consistently, which I'm really proud of. But the other stuff, the singing lessons, going to ceramics and things like that, sometimes I can pack too much in and then I get massively overwhelmed with the amount. I'm like, how am I going to get my work done? And then all these things that are going to nourish my soul. And then if I don't do them, my soul's going to like cry. It gets overwhelming, doesn't it? So I think you have to stop and go, what's my game changing? And sometimes it could just be that, like, come to the moment.
But that's the thing.
Sit on your log and go.
But it's true. Like, and don't underestimate the power of that. And I think, like, the answer isn't always to do more.
No.
You know what I mean? Yet it seems to be our go-to. I just need to do more. To get a better result from my training, I need to just do more. To get more better result from my diet, I need to be more restrictive. And it's like, see how long that lasts.
Yeah.
And that applies to absolutely everything. Like, if it's more all the time, it's gonna kick your ass, man. Like, there's so much power in doing less. And then, that's going to allow you to be more productive when you do the stuff, rather than just ticking that box of more.
And don't rush it. Like, I think because everything's happening fast, we rush stuff. And I think it's quite good to be seasonal. Like,
I just realized we're matching.
Oh yeah, khaki. Like, you could do, you might want to do, I don't know. I've definitely changed up. Like, towards the autumn, I tend to want to run a bit more. Do you know what I mean? But in the summer, I'm like, no, hiking is enough. It's hot, and I prefer to be like, obviously here it's different, but I'll be on the beach doing a quick dip and an afternoon nap if I've got time on the beach. Whereas obviously in the winter, I'm going to switch that up, and it might be a little bit more jogging, and I might join yoga because I want to go indoors again, join a yoga class at the weekend. Like, and I do think weekends are a really good time if you do struggle in the week with work commitments, family commitments. We've definitely done this a lot with clients recently and said, like, could you just pull in the favors a little bit and get some time out for you at the weekend, at least, if you can't do it in the week? I think, I've started to get people to sneak upstairs and just lie in the bed for 10 minutes and put out of office on the door, like, every minute counts. But at the weekend, I think sometimes we find ourselves doing this. We, again, overcommit, put everyone first, and we assume that they need us and want us. We feel guilty about doing something for ourselves. But actually, if you to ask them outright, most people would turn around and go, yeah, just buzz off, man. You're such a nicer person when you've been away for the morning. I do it with my parents. Like, I overthink how much they need me to help out and stuff. And
leave me alone.
Yeah. The other day they just went off.
It's like the roles of reverse. It's like, so annoying. Leave us alone.
The other day they went off in the camper van, and I was like, where have my parents gone? And you're like, they've gone out in the camper van for a few days. I was like, they didn't even say bye. I'd never leave without saying bye. I live without saying bye. But actually, I stopped for a minute and went, isn't that amazing? They're just off on an adventure. Like, that's incredible. So yeah.
Life goals, man.
Yeah, totally.
Adventure. That's why we're saving up our pennies to get a motorhome of our own, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Go on a little tour. Wasn't
What's that?
that the
The
magic
playbus.
play bus? Yeah, remember
The
that?
magic playbus.
Was it the magic play bus? Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It was just the
Oh,
playbus.
was it? Okay.
It was the magic roundabout.
Oh, yeah, it was magic roundabout. Where does it go? Where does it stop? Just look for the sign of the lollipop.
What did we quote the other day? It was some kind of full moon.
Oh yeah,
Jaffa cake
Jaffa
advert.
cake advert. It was
Amazing.
memorable. We were saying like some adverts, and the jingle just stay with you, don't they? But before you say anything else, I'm going to wrap it up. We've
Okay.
spoken for far too long,
I
dear.
know.
And I'm getting hungry. So we'll see you, lovely people, in the next episode.
Yeah.
Hey, see ya.
197.